For today, we will be discussing the Sipoc analysis. So first off, what is Sipoc? So have you ever wanted to see how a process works from start to finish without getting lost in tiny details? So that's exactly what Sipoc analysis helps us do. It is a tool that shows the big picture of who provides what steps happen, and who gets the final result. So CPOC is a high-level process mapping tool. So as I've said, it is used to understand process from start to finish, and it is commonly used in industrial engineering, Six Sigma, and process improvement. So to proceed, why should we use the Sipoc analysis? So there are 5 reasons why we should use Sipoc analysis. So first is, it clarifies process boundaries from start to end. It identifies key supplier and customers. Third, it improves communication across departments. Fourth, it helps detect process problems early. And lastly, it is used as a foundation for improvement projects. Now, what does Sipoc stands for? There are 5 components for Sipoc. S for suppliers, I for inputs, P for process, O for outputs, and C for customers. So these 5 parts are arranged in order because every process naturally starts with suppliers and ends with customers. So for overview, suppliers are who provides the input. Inputs are what materials or data are needed. For process is what step transforms inputs into outputs, and for the outputs, what is produced, and lastly, customers who receives the output, starting with suppliers. So suppliers are the people or groups who provide what is needed to start a process. So without them, nothing can happen, and suppliers can come from inside or outside an organization. So it can be internal within the company or external. So for example, in suppliers, in a manufacturing, a supplier might be a vendor providing raw materials. In a school, it could be the registrar's office or even the student themselves. So here are the pictures that show the examples of suppliers. Now let's proceed to inputs. So inputs are the things supplied by the suppliers that the process needed. So think of them as a resources used to get the work done. So materials, information, equipment, and even human effort are considered as inputs. So for example, of the inputs are raw materials, application forms, machines, electricity, or employee labor. So simply put, inputs are what goes into the process. Let us now proceed to the next, which is process. So the process is a series of steps that transforms inputs into outputs. So we usually list only the main steps so that it's easy to understand. So usually it is in 5 to 7 major steps only. It is high level and not too detailed. So an example of a process is that first, we receive an order. Second, we prepare the materials. Third, we assemble the product. Fourth, we inspect quality, and lastly, we deliver the product. So this process shows us exactly how the work gets done. Outputs are the results of the process. So they're what you get after all the steps are completed. So an example of an output are finished products, approved documents, completed services or reports. So in short, outputs are what comes out of the process. Now let's proceed to the last, which is the customers. So customers are the people or groups who receive the outputs. So they could be external buyers, clients, or internal departments. So customers are important because a process is only successful if it meets their needs. So an example of a customers are buyers, student, clients, other departments, or end users. Let us now proceed. So in general, this is a standard Sipoc table. So in general, how does Sipoc work? So think of it like a flow. So the suppliers give the inputs, or suppliers could be vendors. Then sa inputs, they go through a process. So from the vendor, they provide the raw materials. Then to the process, i-assemble na ang product, and then to the output, it is the finished item, and then sa customer, the finished item will go to the customer. So the customer will or can buy the finished item. So since ang akong gigive nga example is in general man, I will now give a detailed example about bottle manufacturing. So the scenario is that imagine a factory that makes plastic bottles for beverages. So they receive raw materials, the plastic pellets, and turn them into finished bottle ready for delivery. So for the suppliers, so these are the people or organizations that provide the materials or services needed for the process. So sa plastic pellet na suppliers, mag-provide sila raw plastic. Sa cup na suppliers, mag-provide sila bottle cups. Then sa label na suppliers, maghatag sila labels for branding. Then sa machine maintenance or services, mag-provide sila og upkeep for production machines. So from suppliers, mag-ato na ta inputs. So again, inputs are the resources, materials, and information that are needed to produce the product. So sa plastic pellets, muna siya ang main material for the bottle. Then, ang bottle cups, it is used to seal the bottle. Ang label is for branding and product information. Electricity and water is used to run the machines. Then, for the product schedule, it shows how many bottles to produce. So, let's proceed to the process. So, for the process, these are the steps that transforms inputs into outputs. So to keep it simple, again, 5 to 7 steps for the process. So first is plastic melting. So in plastic melting, plastic pellets are heated and then melted. Second is the bottle molding. So melted plastic is shaped into bottles. The next step is cooling. So after it is melted and shaped into bottles, bottles are then cooled to maintain their shape. So fourth is cap placement. So after maintaining the shape, caps are added to the bottles. Then the fifth step is labeling. So labeling or labels are attached to the bottle. Then sixth is quality check. So for the quality check, we are going to inspect the bottles for defects or any anomalies. And lastly, the packaging. So for the packaging, bottles are packed into shipment and ready to be delivered. So now for the outputs. So outputs are again the products or the results of the process. So our finished bottles are now ready for beverage companies, and our defective bottles are to be removed or recycled. Then the production reports, they track the quantity and quality of our products. So lastly, the customers. So these are the people or organization that will receive the output. So who will buy our bottle that we manufactured? So beverage companies will buy the bottles to fill their drinks. And distributors can also be our customers because they transport bottles to beverage companies. And also, retailers are our customers because sometimes they buy empty bottles for small-scale use. So in summary, the Sipoc shows the big picture. So supplier provides the materials, input goes into a process, then the process transforms the materials, outputs are produced, and the customer receives the product. So by using Sipoc, the factory can easily identify where their problems might occur. So like defects from poor plastic pellets, delays in supplier delivery, or quality issues during labeling. Understand how Sipoc works, we must also understand why Sipoc matters. So Sipoc is more than just a diagram. It helps make process easy to understand, spot problems early, improves communication among teams, it serves as a starting point for improving processes. So engineers and organizations often use Sipoc before making improvements because understanding the process works makes changes more effective. So Sipoc doesn't involve any math formulas, but it helps us figure out where measurements like efficiency, quality, or defect should be applied later. It answers what is happening before we calculate how well it is happening. So in conclusion of our topic, Sipoc analysis is a simple yet powerful tool that gives us a clear picture of any process. By identifying suppliers, inputs, processes, outputs, and customers, we can better understand how a system works and how to make it even better.